Hello guys, what's up? This is Murtaza. Welcome back to another video in the Subject-Oriented Programming in C# series at my YouTube channel, A Coder's Journey. I hope you've already watched all of the previous videos and you're here in this video where we are going to talk about enums or enums as they are sometimes pronounced, which is short for enumeration, right? I think they are very easy to understand. I'm going to go through the theoretical aspects very quickly in the slides, and then we're going to go to Visual Studio, and I'm going to show you how to use enumerations or enums. In C#, an enum, short for enumeration, is a special kind of class used to represent a group of constants or read-only variables. We have the same concept in other languages. For example, I remember making a video about TypeScript here in the playlist about TypeScript, and in that series I also talked about playlists in TypeScript. Anyway, read-only constants, right? For enums, and enums can help you make your code more readable and maintainable. How? By giving meaningful names to integer values. So whenever you are working with some specific integer values to show different meanings, right? For example, suppose you are working in an application where there's a there is a concept to work with seasons, right? So you decide that you will assign number 1 to, for example, a spring, number 2 to summer, and so on. Of course, it is possible, but working with integer values is a little bit difficult, not only for yourself as the person who is writing the code, but also for other, peer programmers, because they need to kind of understand all the time what was the meaning of 1, right? Spring. The number 2 was summer, right? This mapping, this mapping between integer values and the concept of seasons makes the understanding of the code a little bit difficult. So why not having a way to represent the names of the seasons, even though they are represented as integer values, but how about using kind of a string literal, right, for representing the names of the seasons? This is exactly what enums can help us achieve, right? So instead of working with integer values to represent constants or read-only variables, we are going to take advantage of some strings, right? So the names that we will have in an enums, which are going to be assigned integer values. Why and when to use enums? First, use enums when you have values that won't change, like days of the week, colors, card, suits, and so on. Enums make your code more descriptive and help prevent using incorrect values. There is a concept in clean code called magic numbers, and I have talked about magic numbers and also magic strings in the playlist about clean code here at my YouTube channel. I suggest that you watch those videos as well. And by enums, you can get rid of magic numbers and magic strings, and you can make your code more readable, more descriptive, and of course cleaner. So let's stop here. Let's go to Visual Studio, and I'm going to show you how to work with enums. So here I am in Visual Studio in the solution, right? And I have added a new project, episode 12. And to add an enum, I'm going to go and add a class. I'm going to, call this class, let's say, public enum. The keyword enum is used to declare an enumeration or enum. I'm going to call it season, right? You can use season as the singular form or seasons. Both of them are valid. And then I'm going to press Control period here, and I'm going to say rename file to seasons CS, right? And then I'm going to add the names of the seasons. For example, I'm going to say a spring, and then I'm going to say summer, I'm going to say fall, and finally winter, right? So basically, when you declare an enumeration with some values, the first value in your enumeration, as you can see here, is automatically assigned the integer value 0. The second one will be 1. The third one will be 2, right? So these will have these integer values starting from 0 all the way down, right? But you can also assign specific values yourself. For example, if I assign 12 here, you will see that this one will get the value 12, right? In the pop-up, you can see, right, 12. And then the next one will be 13, right? The next one will be, let's say, 14, right? And I can also come here and add, for example, 12 here. Let's see what happens, right? 12. So the first one will still be 0. The second one will be 1, right? Then we will have 12, and this one will be 13, right? 13. So we can also assign a specific values to each one of them. For example, I can say this one is, let's say, 2. This one is going to be 5. This one is going to be 6. And this one is going to be 10. So I can assign a specific integer values to these. I told you that enums are used to represent integer constants. So I can assign, integer values myself. But let's go back to this version, right? So let's now show you how you can use enums. I'm going to go here and I'm going to get rid of this code. And in order to make use of my enum, I'm going to say season equals seasons dot spring, right? And as you can see, I am working with these more readable versions of my constant, which is number 0, right? And here I have, my season variable, which is of type seasons. And I can then, for example, right line this season variable, and let me run the code. You can see in the output I get spring. One of the advantages of using strings is when you are storing some values in the database as integer values, right? But in your code or in your UI, user interface of your application, you want to show these more readable versions of those integer values. So in the database, you're going to store 0 to 3, but in the UI or in the application code, you are working not with integer values, but with these more descriptive versions of the integer values. One of the other things that I want you to know is that you can convert these to integers. So for example, I'm going to say season integer, and then I can convert this to integer season. And then let's console write season integer. I'm going to run. You can see we assign spring and we get 0 in the output. So basically, if you convert a variable to int, a variable of type the enumeration you are working with, you will get the integer representation of that, value. And of course, you can, for example, write down a switch statement on, for example, this variable season, right? And then you can say that if the case is a spring, for example, do something. If it is summer, do something, and so on. Here, if you do not know anything about switch statements, you can go to the C# playlist on my YouTube channel and study, the switch statements, which is one of the ways to, implement some conditional statements. And that was it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed watching it. This is actually the last episode, right, of this playlist. I wanted to talk about enums, and then in the next video, I'm gonna wrap up the playlist by kind of going through the topics we covered, and then we will, finish the course, and I will probably talk about a couple of other playlists that you can start watching on my channel. So till later, bye bye.